That is it, boys and girls. Quite a night in Raleigh on Friday night. Miami comes back in the fourth quarter in the final 5 or 6 minutes to defeat NC State on the road 44-41. That was a fun one. So if you just love college football like me, could care less who won the game, just love college football, want to see a great college football game on a Friday night, especially at a time. And we had a watch party over on Patreon and took in the game. And I said a number of times that I love it when there's one good game on because I'm the guy that wants to watch 5 games at the same time. And that's no fun because you're all over the place. When you can concentrate on the ebb and flow and appreciate the replays and appreciate the strategy and really take in one game at a time, as we did with Miami and North Carolina State, then that is a whole lot of fun for a college football fan and analyst. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, here on our Miami channel. And of course, most of you Miami fans did have a lot of investment in this game, and it never looked in doubt necessarily. It never looked as though the game was out of reach, I should say. But certainly down by 10 points after the North Carolina State field goal, and then Miami coming down and only kicking a field goal when that De'Ara King touchdown run was taken away on the fourth down play. That could have proven pivotal. I had stars all over that series of plays and the resultant field goal, because that could have been an enormous disaster for Miami had they lost this game. But they stayed in there down by a touchdown at that point, got the ball back, and the defense shredded for most of the night. The defense stood tall and got the job done and pulled through late for this victory. So we welcome in everybody here and would love to get your comments, your questions, your debate topics, as I like to say most of the time, but of course your analysis as well on this one, as Miami pulls to 6-1, 5-1 in the ACC, and drops NC State to 4-3. We got a call coming in. Can't wait to hear from our first caller of the night. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Miami, NC State. How we doing tonight?
Hey, Mark, it's George.
Hey, George.
I'm going to sound like a Miami fan for a minute. I am so happy.
Okay, you're a Florida fan who's happy that Miami won. I'll never understand you, George.
Miami ever since one year, Miami beat us the first game of the year, and we won the national title that year. And another year, we beat Miami the first game, and they won the national title.
This is true.
Good old days.
Yep, I'm well aware of that. Yep, you are right. That would be 1983, and that would be 2008. 2008? No.
Huh?
The 1 year was definitely 1983. I'm not coming up with a year when Florida won the national championship after Miami beat them the first game of the season.
Right.
Not coming up with that one.
Happy.
Not coming up with that
I feel
one.
like a 4-year-old they got a Christmas present or something. I'm so happy. That was the greatest game ever. 1,000 yards of offense and Miami won.
George, you're never too short on hyperbole. Greatest game ever.
I know.
It's the greatest game of the weekend. I'm going to tell you that. It's the greatest game so far this weekend. No question about that.
I know. For Friday, and if we wanted to, we could still watch some other boring game, but that was exciting.
Oh, I don't know. This BYU Boise State game that's playing right now. I got my DVR rolling. I want to see that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it too. I'm on record. You know, all my stuff's on the internet. I spent months and months and months and months on every Miami channel telling them about this guy, De'Ara King. I said he's a winner. He will put the whole team on his back and will the team to win. And when you have a guy like that in the locker room, it changes everything. They have confidence now. They don't quit playing. They're stronger in the fourth quarter. I love those guys. I love King.
Oh, he was amazing tonight. Amazing. Throwing the ball deep.
He had 500 yards of offense. He threw for 400, ran for 100. I can't even keep up with the statistics now. I want to move on to something else. I never talk shit about a Florida player.
Okay.
Ever.
All right.
You don't talk
We're
about
gonna save that. We're gonna save that for another time. This is the Miami North Carolina State incident analysis.
I said stuff. They talk about Pope
Does
all the
this
time,
have
and he
anything
was
to do with Miami football or North Carolina
Yeah,
State?
they talk stuff about Pope, and Pope made up for everything tonight. Pope saved the day. Pope is redeemed. And quit talking bad about your own players. Congratulations, Miami, but don't criticize your players. He saved their day. He was the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was a great game by King. No question about it.
No, Pope.
Oh, Mark Pope. Well, okay, Mark Pope. I didn't know if you were telling us what you were sniffing tonight, or I didn't know what you were talking about, or maybe your favorite beverage. Pope.
Miami.
Pope. Okay, got it.
Miami. Don't talk bad about your own
All
players.
right.
And they've been doing it all year, and today he saved their life. They shouldn't talk bad about their players. You never know what next Saturday might bring.
Well, I think there's a balance there. I don't like to talk about these players like they're professionals, because they're not, or at least they shouldn't be, and therefore they're student athletes. And so our criticism should be reserved. But at the same time, if they're not playing well, we are on here to analyze the games, and it's impossible to analyze the games if we're not critical of poor play. And Mark Pope has dropped a ton of passes this year.
The next thing I'm thinking is Manny Diaz. You can't say he never won a game off a bye week again. I don't want to hear about that again. Miami is like crybaby sometimes. Like he just fixed it. Okay, so don't say that ever again. Don't say he's 5-1 or 4-1 now. Just stop already. Quit criticizing your own team and coaches.
Well, again, George, it's a bit disturbing and alarming. And I don't know that it's enough games for it to be a trend, but when your team is 0-4 coming off bye week, so typically teams have time to rest, time to heal, time to strategize for the next opponent and prepare. And being 0-4, that wasn't enough games for me to call out the alarm, but it is a bit concerning.
Okay, I'll let that go. 5 minutes and 18 seconds left to go. Miami stuffed Knight running right up the middle. And I knew that was the turning point of the game. The next play, some guy named Couch sacks the quarterback on a blitz. And I was like, it's on now. Let's go. And when Miami made a decision to kick a field goal to go up by 4, that was a genius call. It was obvious to anybody who knows anything about football. That was the right call at that time, because it was going to unfold exactly the way it did unfold. You had to put the points up there.
All right, George. Yep, Harley had a big game. Yep. I'm going to get into this live chat and answer some of these questions here.
All right, love you guys.
And we got a call coming in. Thank you, sir. All right. I'm going to respond to some of these comments in the live chat that are a bit, they are what they are. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. This is Dave Greenshield. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine, Dave. How are you?
Excellent. I would be doing a lot better if I had got the over at the NC State Miami game. I'll tell you that much right now.
Well, I took NC State in the points, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. And Miami to win the game outright.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, that Miami team seems to be heading in the right direction, by the way. I just want to say to Miami fans, and I troll them a little bit as a Buckeye fan, because they keep on bringing up 0-2, and by the way, have they ever brought up the Chris Gamble penalty at the end of regulation, or is that washed from their brains?
Well,
can I just ask
I don't think they really understand that. I don't think that's something that most football fans, unfortunately, most sports fans, just like most fans of any topic that we could bring up, aren't really deep and knowledgeable. Plus, obviously, they've got a slant to their perspective. So, of course, they don't bring that up.
Sure.
They don't understand what happened the rest of the game. So I've had to lay that out a number of times in regards to the the rest of the game. But we don't want to go back 18 years. Don't want to do that. We want to talk
Sure.
about what happened tonight.
We need to move forward, and I get it. And you know what? I just hope Miami fans do the same, because I will just say this: they seem to be heading in a positive direction with Manny Diaz. And I said this in my comments: I could see them being a 10-2, 9-3 football team within the next year or two. I don't think that they can overcome the mountain that is Clemson, but I could see them heading in a positive direction as a football team. I could see them getting better.
You don't think that they can ever overcome the mountain that is Clemson?
Well, I will say this. I will be interested to see what they will look like. First of all, Clemson has scored two of the greatest all-time college quarterbacks in most recent memory.
Sure.
In Lawrence and Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
Now, to be fair to them, they won the conference with Kelly Bryant as their quarterback.
Yes.
So, you know, they've also done it with a quarterback that is not Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson. To be fair to them. And they are recruiting at a really higher level than they were even earlier in the Dabo era. So, you know, you have to see. Now, maybe this next quarterback is a miss, and maybe he's not Lawrence or he's not Watson or even Bryant. I mean, obviously, we're going to find out a lot tomorrow when they play Notre Dame. But, you know, who knows? I mean, as an Ohio State fan, I have to say, I mean, we're fortunate because we're on the verge of having the two greatest college quarterbacks we've ever had in Dwayne Haskins and Justin Fields. I don't know next year if Miller or C.J. Stroud are going to be as good as Justin Fields or Dwayne Haskins. So, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, you never know if that next quarterback, if you're just going to keep it rolling. You know, it's a tough thing to call. So, yes, I mean, could they eventually get past Clemson? Yes. But, I mean, with the way that Clemson is recruiting, it's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. I mean, what is your read on it, Mark?
Well, my read is that they have an inherent advantage over Clemson, and one of the reasons why they've been a better football program for periods of time than Clemson over the last 40 years is that they've got an inherent recruiting advantage based on recruiting footprint. Now, of course, Clemson has surpassed that, and they become a national program. But things change. Pete Carroll, USC, Mac Brown, Texas. Need I keep going and going and going? So things change, and Clemson has not been a football powerhouse before the last 5 years. They have not been a national power elite status. This is the first time in history that Clemson has reached that level. I know that they won a national championship. Somebody's going to point that out. They had a one-year aberration in winning a national championship in 1981, but they've never been elite up until 2015.
Sure. And nobody ever thought they were elite during the Tommy Bowden era.
Well,
I
no.
get that.
They weren't even good. They were
mediocre at best. You're right.
Yeah.
Right. I get your point. The thing that I'm going to say, and you know what, though? Your Texas point is not a bad point, Mark, because what happened to Texas? They caught a 5-year, 6-year period where they had the two best quarterbacks they've ever had in Vince Young and Colt McCoy. And they missed on a few quarterbacks, even though they were still recruiting at a higher level.
Hey, David, I'm sorry to cut you off. We're going to stay with Miami and North Carolina State because that was the game that was played. And I know I've got Miami fans on here. It's a Miami channel, so we're not going to talk about Texas.
No, Mark, I was making an analogy.
I understand, but we're going to stay with Miami because I guarantee that hardly anybody that's listening cares anything about Texas quarterbacks from 10 or 15 years ago.
Well, all I was saying is Clemson could go downhill if they don't get on quarterback, which would allow Miami to catch them.
Sure.
That's where
and anybody else. Yep. Absolutely.
Sure. And you know what? Your point is a good point about that recruiting base, because I will say this, and it was said, you know, a long time ago, if Miami could capture that recruiting base within their neck of the woods, they would be a playoff team, a national championship caliber team for years to come.
Sure.
You know, they have that area right down there in the Miami area that they could just feed them talent, you know, for years to come. Now, the tough part for Miami is there's a lot of other schools within that area, within Florida even, even, and within the Southeastern Conference and within the ACC that are coming to get that talent as well. So, I mean, that's where I think the work is cut out for Manny Diaz.
Absolutely. All right, David, I'm going to make my way through the live chat here.
All right, Mark, you take care of yourself.
I appreciate it. All right. Want to make sure we stay on course because I run a national show, national network. Our main channel is obviously open to all college football fans and analysis and conversation, but we want to stay focused on North Carolina State. No, Miami and North Carolina State and the game tonight and what it means down the road. All right, so let's back up here a little bit. Let's see if there's anything I need to catch. It's good to see George Tanner. Ugly win, but he'll take it. TDW Joe. Yes, you've got a king. He was a king tonight. He will talk about the downfield throws and the downfield accuracy as opposed to what we saw just a few weeks ago through the remainder of the season up until this Virginia game. So they've obviously worked on that. They have obviously worked the quarterback and the receivers on downfield throwing. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? This is J-Love T. Let's go, K!
J-Love T, it's great to hear from a Miami fan, actually. We had a couple of other fans call in, and I was waiting to hear from Miami, or, of course, NC State fans if they would like to call in, but Miami fans in particular. So, J-Love T, congratulations tonight.
Thank you so much, man. I mean, let me start off with one negative. My gosh, Clay Baker is terrible. He's terrible. But with the cherry on top, in my opinion, as a 30-year-old Hurricane fan, this is probably the second greatest performance I ever seen by a single player ever, De'Aaron King. Congratulations to De'Aaron King. And who wants to know what's my first? Sean Taylor in the rain. I mean, you can't talk that. It's a rivalry game. But man, De'Aaron King came to ball, man. He came to ball. How do you feel about the King effect? And one more question. It's not only me, but a lot of people also is saying, if this is hypothetical, if Miami finishes 10-1, New York has to give King the Heisman. We talking Heisman now. Well, what do you feel about that?
Okay. I'm going to back up a couple statements. I'm going to attack your first one that had to do with this being one of the two greatest performances you ever saw. And I'm guessing that's out of a Miami player.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
From a Miami player. Okay. The only thing I'll say, and so I've got a few years on you, J Love T. So understand I started watching college football in the late 70s. So I saw the 1983 national championship team and watched that Orange Bowl. I can't necessarily sit here and rate Miami player performances, but I would want to keep one thing in mind, that some of the great all-time Miami performances came in Florida State games, came in national championship games, came in bowl games. This game was against, no knock on De'Aaron King. He was exceptional. He was throwing the deep ball like he has been practicing it nonstop for the last 2 weeks. But that was against North Carolina State. That was against a pretty marginal football team. That's a top 50 or 60 team in the country. So let's understand that. They gave up 45 points to Wake Forest. You know, they've been giving up 35 and 45 points to just about everybody. So I'm going to take them out of the mix. He was delivering the football, and his deep passing was exceptional on target. Yes.
Fine.
Threw for 435 touchdowns, 31 for 41, and there were at least 2 drops in there. There were 2 consecutive drops at one point.
Yeah. Did he run over 100? I don't have the stat sheet on film, and he said he ran over 100 also. I mean, that's the first time in a long time.
So, obviously, some of the sacks and the one botched mesh play counts against his rushing, and he still ran for 105 on 15 carries.
Wow, man. Wow. It feels good, man. And like I said, I know a lot of people in the fan base is being negative, saying that Miami shouldn't struggle. Even me and Olsen one had a disagreement saying we shouldn't lower the bar. But at the end of the day, we're learning how to win we haven't been dominant in 16 years. I'd rather give it just that brick. I don't know. That's just me, man. And I know a lot of people's gonna crucify me for that, saying I'm soft. But we don't have anybody. We don't know anybody on the staff in the building that actually knows how to dominate. And we gotta learn how to win first, man. We gotta learn how to win first, and we're actually doing it. Because last year, the year before, 3 years ago, we don't come out with the win like how we came out with the win tonight. Especially down 10, with the defense playing awful. And like I said, I am the president. The same way Cam Underwood is the president of the Nicosi Perry Fan Club, I am the president of the Blake Baker Hater Club. My God, the defense was terrible. To the point that even the interception we got late was lucky. Let's just be honest here. It was lucky. It was lucky. Very lucky. And yeah. So how do you feel? How do you feel tonight, Mark? Well, what did you like? And is the Miami fan base over exaggerating about the defense? Is it common or everything like that? Especially from your point of view.
Well, I'm going to take some of your comments, J-Love T, and I'm going to give you my perspective. So I think that Miami fans should be extremely happy with this season. I think they should be extremely excited about the opening up of the offense. They should be excited about having their best quarterback that they've had in 17 or 18 years, 19 years. I would have debated 3, 4, 5 weeks ago that he may not be better than Brad Kaya, but he was definitely the best since then. But I don't think there's any question he's better than Kaya. Obviously, he brings the running element to the game as well. So he's the best quarterback you've had in roughly 18 or 19 years. So you should be happy with that. Yeah. You should be happy that you can trust your field goal kicker to go out there and hit the kicks every time he walks out there. There's a lot of great things. And to your point, yes, you are not a dominant team. No, you are not one of the best teams in the country. But this time last year, to your point, you were blowing these games. You were blowing these games to FIU and Duke and Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. You're beating all these teams. And yes, if you're coming from the Clemson perspective or the Alabama perspective, you're going to say, well, if you're, certain people are going to say, well, if you want to be truly Miami again, then you should be blowing these teams out. Okay. There's a little bit of truth to that, but there needs to be progress and there needs to be advancement, and it's taken in steps. You're 6-1, or at this time last year, you were either 3-4 or 4-3, with obviously a 7-loss season that was the result of that, 13-13 the last 2 years. And so I think you should be very happy with the progress. Should you be satisfied in stopping here? Of course not. But you should be happy that a 13-13 team over the last 2 years is now 6-1. And I think you are, and I'm taking a ballpark look at this based on everything that I watch every Saturday. I think you're one of the 15 or 20 best teams in the country. I would still like to see you play one of those teams so I could get a better gauge on it, because North Carolina State's a top 50 team. And so the struggle is a bit concerning. But I also want people to understand that even the best teams in the country don't go out against the North Carolina State team and blow them out every time. They blow them out a lot, but they don't blow them out every time. So if you take Clemson's schedule, if you take Ohio State, if you take Alabama, they will win most of these games. Those three teams would beat North Carolina State by 30 points most of the time, but not every time. Go through their schedule. Look at the Clemson game against Boston College last week. They struggled to win that game. Alabama's been in a struggle the last few years against a number of teams I could list off. So I think you should be happy. You should be satisfied with the progress made. The offense is light years beyond anything that we've seen the last several years. You should be happy about all that. But if you're wanting to be the Miami of the mid 80s to the early 2000s, then you obviously have a ways to go, but that wasn't going to be achieved this year. This is a really good team. It's a good team.
Thank you. 2 more questions. One, do you put Derek King in New York with the performances would end right now. Do you put Derek King in New York? Not win it. Do you give him a seat at the chair?
How many players are going to New York? Typically 3 or 4, right? 4? Did we send 4 to New York?
No, 4. Okay.
Well, I got to see more out of Justin Fields. He's only played 2 games, but he's been near perfect.
He's going. Come on, Mark. Come on.
Well, I know he's going. We're not. Whoa. You're not asking me who's going. I could tell you who's most likely going to go. You're asking me who should go. Those aren't necessarily the same thing. Justin Fields has only played 2 games. There's just an assumption that he's going to be lights out, which he most likely will be, like he was last year. Mac Jones. So if I'm awarding the Heisman Trophy today, it's going to Mac Jones. That who is he's going to win the Heisman Trophy for me right this second. There are no running backs in the country right now that are playing out of their minds. Even Etienne's not having a great year. Chuba Hubbard's not having a great year. Obviously, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are just getting on the field, so you got to dismiss everybody there. So really, the North Carolina backs having a nice year, but they're losing games. So right now it's Fields, Lawrence, King, Mac Jones. Yeah, those are your 4. I'm not coming up with anybody else. Sam Howell's having a nice year. I'd have to look at maybe some numbers, but it's not the year that De'Ara King's having right now.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And the last question. The Miami Hurricanes defense. You've covered Miami. You and Ken and Olsen, you guys have covered Miami football for at least past 4 years.
Yes.
Like heavy. You probably more than that. I'm just saying theoretically for the chat here and for the rewatch squad.
Sure.
And you've seen the Miami Diaz defense, and you've seen the Miami Diaz defense transition to the Blake Baker defense. This is out of your opinion. If you were part of the committee, well, you basically is part of the committee. Do you feel like Miami should cut ties with Blake Baker after what you saw tonight and what the progress has been the past year and a half? And also throw in the fact how Rick Lashley didn't even have a spring practice, and the offense is way ahead of the defense when Blake Baker even had his system for 2 years already.
So before I address the defense, I'm going to say 2 things that has impressed me about the offense, and it showed up in the Louisville game first and foremost. Was number 1, for the first time in watching Miami play offense for the last several years, is watching the TV production. They consistently couldn't show a replay and get back to the next play. And that was showing me that they were pushing tempo. And that's something that's been talked about forever, but they're finally doing it. The second one was that I've seen Rhett Lashley, more so than the previous offensive coordinators, Enos in particular, draw up plays that were set up specifically by earlier plays in the game, and the defense was completely lost, blown coverage, didn't see the back out of the backfield, didn't see the tight end out of the formation, leak out of the backfield, and they were completely fooled. Where Rhett Lashley created plays that were set up earlier in the game, where it didn't even matter that Miami was great athletically or had a good quarterback. Right? Anybody who can throw and catch the ball could have executed these plays for touchdowns because they were that well set up. And I haven't seen that in the past. It was always a grind. It was always work to score. Every time that Miami would score, it was based on basically athleticism and explosive speed. So for the first time that they've had play calling actually utilize the athletes. Point number 3 that I saw tonight is that we know that the deep passing game has not been successful for the first 5 games of the season. They obviously addressed an issue and obviously focused on both the practice time and the timing that needed in practice toward that end. And also they called upon the right players at the right time and the right formations to make those deep passes. They have obviously worked on that extensively just in the last 2 weeks to go from being a poor deep throwing team to a team that's now, in these 2 games, they've looked exceptional throwing the deep ball. They look like elite throwing the deep ball. Okay, so that's the offense. The defense, I was watching tonight's game figuring out, and the thing with North Carolina State is they've got one receiver and they've got one back. They don't come at you with waves. They've got one near elite type receiver, one near, and their tight end's a decent player, but that shouldn't be difficult to defend them. They don't have waves of athletes. They got one running back and they got one great receiver. And that's their offense. So they shouldn't be as lost in trying to shut this team down. Now, the one thing that you can take from this defensive effort was when the game was on the line and they had to make stops, they did the last 3 drives. Now, North Carolina State played, I thought, a little too conservative with the lead. They lost their creativity. They were, having the quarterback roll out, and they were running little bootlegs and doing different things to get receivers open that they kind of got away from, and they just wanted to try to see if they could grind out the clock, and that was not successful. So I think the defense was given a bit of a favor, but they did come through in the last 3 drives of the game.
Okay. So answer the question. As a King supporter, somebody from the outside, would you cut ties with Blake Baker after this year from what you saw from tonight in the previous 3 seasons, even if we do finish 10-1?
I would think, as good as Manny Diaz is on defense, that he could either go the route that a lot of people do, and it's typically on the offensive side of the ball, where a head coach will take on that side of the ball, the side that he has the expertise, and will just kind of leave the other half of the team to a defensive coordinator, that he would do a similar approach on the defensive side. Or I would think he's that knowledgeable about defensive football, knows what he wants, that he would be able to interview and grab that coach out there that has a very similar philosophy, where he would be very much in sync, and that he would be able to trust that guy to take on the defense. So I believe that they wouldn't be losing anything in getting rid of Blake Baker, and that Manny Diaz, being that proficient and expertise on that side of the ball, would be able to find a defensive coordinator that would be step for step in line with his approach and could be just as successful on that side of the ball. So yeah, Blake Baker, gone.
I like that. Please take this, put it in a replay. I'll sponsor it. Thank you. Have a great night, Mr. Rogers, man. Have a blessed one, and I cannot wait to tune into your next couple of shows for the next couple of days. And go Kings!
Always appreciate the support, J Love T. Thank you. Our man, J Love T. So, fortunately for coaches like Blake Baker, I'm not the one calling the shots, and those decisions would be made in more time than me thinking for 30 seconds. There would be more in-depth analysis of the job that he's doing. So, but if you're going to hold a gun to my head, yeah, I don't see any reason why he should be around next year based on what I've seen and based on how good Manny Diaz is on that side of the ball, and that he couldn't go out and get somebody that he really wants. All right, let's see. Where are we? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
There was a situation at the end of the game where it was 4th and 1. Miami got the false start.
Yes.
They got pushed back 5 yards.
Yep.
And they elected to kick the field goal. The announcer was baffled by the decision. I'm going to hang up and I'd like to hear your take on it.
Okay, I appreciate it. So whomever's calling in right now, I apologize, but I'm going to address this in just a second. So there was about 7 minutes on the clock, and we're not going to go through the litany of reviews and that Miami could have scored on 4th down. Then they had to go back to a 3rd down, and for every reason in the world, I can completely understand why Manny Diaz was upset, because they scored on 4th down, so why review our 3rd down play? That being the case, they blew the whistle at the time that they did, and neither play could be upheld. So they didn't score on third down. They didn't score on fourth down because the play was called dead. Again, I will get to the phone calls in just a second. So it moves them back to a field goal. So I didn't understand the big outrage about that either, because let's understand something, that the game was 41-31. There's still 7 minutes left in the game. So when you're watching college football in the year 2020, you understand that 7 minutes is what 3 minutes used to be 30 years ago. 7 minutes, my goodness. I saw a game last weekend where there must have been 4 scores in the last 90 seconds of the game. There are teams that are getting kickoffs with 22 seconds left on the clock and scoring, kicking field goals, and just go boom, 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 3 passes, kick a field goal. So the proliferation of the offense has just made these games just not over until late in the game. So that said, I had no issue with the field goal. I would have understood also going for it, saying, okay, we're down here. We're right here. Our defense is giving up scoring plays. But if you look at the big picture, is North Carolina State's offense a juggernaut and is Miami's defense awful? Neither is the case. Miami's defense is actually better than North Carolina State's offense in a typical situation. Now, it didn't play out like that for about 3 quarters tonight, where NC State was coming up with play after play after play and scoring 41 points. I get it. So I understand where the announcers were going with that line of thinking, that you're down here, why not go for it? But if you don't get it, you just hand the ball back to NC State. They have a 2-score lead, and they're able to work clock, if nothing else, move themselves out to punt, and then you get the ball back with 3 or 4 minutes left, and you're down by 2 scores. If you don't get it, I had no issue with. They had plenty of timeouts. They had all their timeouts left. There was still 7:15 or 7:20 on the clock. You kick the field goal. You have a field goal kicker who's almost automatic versus what you've had the last few years. So that has to be taken into consideration as well. You're down by a score. You trust your defense, even though they had been shredded for much of the game. I still think a Miami defense is better than a North Carolina State offense. So I was in agreement with the call to go for the field goal. All right, now I'll take some calls. So hopefully I was clear on that. I would have gone for the field goal, but I understood the thought about going for it right there and tying the game or coming within 3. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Hurricane Logan, what's up, brother?
Hey, man. How are you?
Happy we got the win. Other than that, not too happy.
Well, I understand that. It was I think some people, Hurricane, can't separate the excitement of the game, meaning it was a really good college football game to watch. So for me, I don't care who's winning. So it's just fun to watch a 44-41 game. It was exciting. It was down to the wire. Both teams were making plays. So if you're a Miami fan, you're just happy. Some people take the perspective that I'm just happy they won and it was an exciting game and it was very much in doubt, down by 10. So I'm just happy that they pulled it out, versus you're taking more of the perspective that, okay, should we be struggling with North Carolina State?
No.
Exactly.
No. What you just said was all right, man. We literally, any Miami Hurricane fan that's logical can sit there and say, after that interception that we had, we were like, holy shit, the game is over. Thank God, because our defense struggled all game.
Sure.
And they got exposed all game. Literally, our defense, I don't care what you say about our line, our linebackers, our secondary, we got exposed all game. It was rough. And guess what, guys? That's against NC State. And I've been saying it, I don't know how many times I called in your show, Mark, but we just don't got it. We don't got it. And I don't understand what it's going to take to convince Miami fans that we just don't have it. But guess what? We just played North Carolina State, and they put up over 40 points on us, which hasn't happened since Mark D'Onofrio was our defensive coordinator. God forbid, let's not talk about that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you've given up 40
We
points.
just don't have it. Go ahead.
You've given up 40 points.
Well, I'm saying we haven't given up 40 points like we have against NC State. You know what I'm saying?
Virginia
NC
Tech.
State, an offense that's just badass and just scores 40 points on anybody.
Backup quarterback in there too. They didn't have their starting quarterback. I'm supporting your point, Hurricane. Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
My apologies. Yeah, I just said I was supporting your point by saying that North Carolina State had their backup quarterback in.
Yeah, I hear that, man. You know, what happened tonight, you know, is unexcusable. On defense, it's seriously, if anybody can sit here and make an excuse for what happened on defense tonight, I really don't know what to tell you. Because the problem with Miami fans, and this is where you're going to relate to me on some shady, right? Because Slim's a big, logical Miami fan. And I'm going to do the same thing that he's doing. We're not there. We are not there. Seriously, you just saw us compete with North Carolina like no other. Like, as soon as we made the interception, I was like, holy shit, we're going to win the game. Thank the Lord. And thank God we made the interception, because if we didn't, it would be a long drive at North Carolina.
And let's be honest about that turnover. So anytime I look at turnovers, and I look at them as either the offense gave a gift or the defense made a play. In that one, DJ Ivey caught the ball, but it was tipped right to him, and it was basically the quarterback made an overthrow. The quarterback made a bad throw. The dude had to dive for it, and he tipped it up in the air. So it wasn't like your corner made a break on the ball and made a great play on the ball. It was a gift. It was a gift.
Exactly. It was a big gift. That was a stupid mistake by the North Carolina State quarterback, and believe me, I'll kiss his feet. I'll say thank you, sir. Love you. But at the same time, man, our defense played really bad that game, and Canes fans, we got a wake-up call, because if we're sitting here struggling against North Carolina State like that, we got a long way to go. I've said this, right? Because Clemson was kind of the wake-up call. Everybody was sitting there saying, oh, it's Clemson. Shut up, man. You don't know what you're talking about. It's Clemson. Blah, blah. I'm like, dude, we're not there. We're not there. And I said, after the bye week, when we come against North Carolina State, we got a long way to go. And guess what? We have a long way to go. If you think things get easier after NC State, you're wrong. You're wrong. And Miami continues to prove that when we play teams like this, because we barely beat Virginia, and then we barely beat North Carolina State. Let me tell you something. This is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Our defense has regressed. It has, period. You know what I'm saying? It's turned into a point to where we can't sit there and make COVID excuses and all the nonsense. We just need to sit there and play Miami football. And even when we sit there and play Miami football, we don't do it. However, I'll give credit on offense. Our offense looked phenomenal tonight. Big shout out to De'Aaron King. He played awesome, man. Big shout out to De'Aaron King. I don't know if you saw De'Aaron King tonight, but he balled. Mark, he balled.
Oh, I watched it, and I watched every play.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine as a kid, as De'Aaron King, playing without his father, and his mom had breast cancer. Man, I'm so happy for De'Aaron King. He really, really deserves. He deserves it. He deserves it, man. It's literally touching to sit there and see King come out and play like how he has with what he's been through. I don't know how he does it, but man, it's inspiring, you know.
Absolutely, it's inspiring. And you got to feel good about this as well from a football standpoint, from an X's and O's, nuts and bolts, that they put up the numbers at the beginning of the game of how awful Miami's been throwing the deep ball in the first 5 games. Then they worked on it. And against Virginia, they hit on 6 of 7 passes downfield that at least traveled 20 yards. And then tonight, they took another huge leap in that category, and he was tossing dimes downfield, and the receivers were making plays.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And I'm not gonna lie, like one thing that looked good tonight is, I mean, I don't know how long it's been in the Miami Hurricane offense system for 7 years now, maybe more. Honestly, I feel like our offense was more dependable than our defense. It really was.
Sure.
It really was. Like I watched the whole game and I was like, I didn't care. I didn't care. I was like, you know what? Give our offense the ball. King will make a play. Harley will make a play. Pope will make a play. Ken Harris, Chaney. Someone's going to make a play, and our offense will keep the ball going. But with Miami Hurricane football, you never sit there and watch us play the last 5 years and say, offense is the problem. Because it's always been offense. And now it's like the complete opposite. Like this game was just, we had 600 yards of offense. That's unheard of. And then when you look at our defense, no one's ever put this many points on us since D'Onofrio. Like, do you guys remember who D'Onofrio was? That was misery in our program. It really was. It was misery. I'm depressed right now talking about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a reality check, man. Honestly speaking, our defense is not that good. Mostly probably in the secondary. Maybe with Amari Carter, thank God we didn't get a targeting call, but anytime Amari got the ball called to him, it was kind of rough. But we got a long way to go, man. I don't understand. One thing I'll say for certain, Mark, is a lot of Miami fans, like, they talk trash, and Mark always sits there and supports Miami, and he's always logical. This is one thing I say about the fan base, man, is be logical. Be logical. Don't be stupid. Don't sit there and say Mark hates on us and is all this nonsense. Dude, Mark supports us logically. He gave us a better record last year, and we shit the bed with an FIU and Louisiana Tech. That's the ugly truth. I'm sorry. And he's doing it again this year. So don't sit here and say Mark hates on us. Listen to Mark. Listen to Cam. And what they say is the truth. It's literally the truth. And if you don't think it is, you just need to watch. You just need to watch us play, and you'll see it. And you'll be like, "Oh shit, now it makes sense." Whoops. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
I hate when people sit there and say Mark doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a big Miami Hurricane hater. Dude, are you serious? Mark is an Ohio State fan. Come on now.
Well, I tell you, Hurricane, you're right on the money. Basically, what happens here is that I've got 30 years in television. I love doing this. I love debating college football. I love analyzing it. I love talking it. I opened a YouTube channel to talk college football and talk about it in an analytical and logical way, and to be unbiased and to rank and rate teams and just have a great discussion with everybody. And I got a great response from Miami, which a lot of that had to do with State of the U and Cam Underwood. I started a Miami channel. People love it. I'm going to get on there, but I'm not going to just talk up Miami all the time. I'm not going to blow that up people's you-know-whats. I'm not going to just be some kind of homer guy because, number one, I'm not a Miami fan. And even if I was, I would still call it logically and as unbiasedly as possible. And that's who I am, and that's the approach I have. And I think people like you appreciate that if we're all just going to get on here and say Miami's awesome and they can blow anybody out and they're the greatest and that Clemson game must have been fixed or the refs fixed it, or, and then just act like idiots and talk like idiots, that don't see reality, then I don't know what the purpose of that is, that people should go to other channels if they just want to hear Miami propaganda constantly. I'm not here to hate on Miami either. I'm here to, as you stated, I picked this team to go 8-4 last year. And before a game was played, I had hundreds of comments bashing me about how I hate Miami and I'm an idiot and they're going to go 12-0 or they're going to go 11-1. And then I'm an idiot for picking them 8-4. Well, they went 6-6 and then lost a bowl game. The year before I picked them to go 9-3. And I heard about what an idiot I was, because the year before they went 10-3 and they're definitely on the right track and they're going to explode and do all these great things. And I picked them to go 9-3 and I'm an idiot and I hate Miami. And they go 7-5. So for 2 consecutive years, I've overshot their record by 2 games. And
you showed us more love than reality.
So I do my best. All I can say is I do my best, and I'm not going to be swayed by either people's love or their criticism.
That's the truth, Mark. And that's what I've been saying ever since I started watching the show. Like, I love watching you because you're not a Hurricane fan. You're not a Hurricane fan. You're literally somebody who just watches us, you evaluate us, and you get the best insiders that you can to sit there and tag along with you and evaluate us. And they all speak the same truth. It's the same thing. Seriously, if anybody in this chat can sit here and make excuses about, I mean, there's still people in this fan base right now that think that we can go back to Clemson and whoop their ass. And I'm sitting there scratching my head like, what in the hell are you watching? Seriously, excuse my language, but what are you watching? Because North Carolina just put up what on us? And you're talking about how we can go against Clemson? Dude, we're way behind. We're 2017 all over again. And you know what's good about this year? One thing I can say is maybe there's a chance that we can close out this year and actually end it on the note that we should. 2017, we couldn't do that. But what I'm saying is don't be fooled by this year because we're not there. We're literally not there. We barely beat Virginia, vagina as I call them. You know what I'm saying? We barely beat NC State. I'm sorry, man. Everybody wants to talk about how Miami is this and that. Dude, we barely beat Virginia. We barely beat NC State. Wake up and look at the reality of things. And just seriously, if everybody would do that, it wouldn't be a big deal. We can sit there and be like, you know what? Miami's an average team. Because guess what? That's what we are. We're an average team. Period. Are we better than average? No, we're not. You know why we're not? Because of coaching. Honestly, it's because of coaching. We're not there. You know what I'm saying? And you got the goofy dude in here who says Wayne Diaz is the best coach in college football. Good Lord. I wish I had whatever. So, I don't want to get off topic, but whatever it is that you're drinking, I want it really bad because Manny Diaz is not the best coach in college football, man. That is silly. That's silly. I think Manny Diaz has the right idea, but you can't bank on the transfer portal, man. You can't bank on the transfer portal. That's like banking on the lottery. It's not a win-win situation. You got to recruit. You got to develop those recruits. And if you have those recruits and you're there, then you can bank on the transfer portal. And you can fill in those spots that you don't have. LSU, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But we're not there yet. We're not there, Mark. We got a long way to go. And I love how you keep it real. Even when you're on with Cam, you guys keep it real. You keep it real, man. You always speak the truth. You never get delusional. Please, good Lord, don't ever give our fan base a reason to be more delusional than they already are.
Well, before you played Clemson, I certainly saw a more competitive game. And again, I gave Miami more credit than I should have. I said 34-27. I said this is going to be a game going into the fourth quarter, and then Clemson's going to win it. And I actually put a 34-27 score in that game, and people again were calling me a hater and that I hated Miami and I underrated them and so forth and so on. And then I was like, yeah, I actually gave you way too much credit for that game because the game was over sometime in the first or second quarter.
And this is so frustrating to talk about because of how COVID is and how the ACC is going. I don't know if people understand, right? The ACC is going really bad, right? So you look at Louisville and how they did against Notre Dame, and then you look at Miami and how they did against Florida State, and then you just look at how the ACC is gone, and it's just like, look, man, don't bank on nothing. Like, there's no argument in our schedule. There's no argument, right? Because if you really want to break stuff down, besides Clemson, UAB is the best defense we face, and we obviously ran the ball all over them.
Mm-hmm.
But just breaking stuff down is just like, dude, like, look,
Maybe
win a game at a time.
Maybe
but
Pitt.
at the same time, be logical in your wins, because this game right here, right? This is a pure example. This is not a convincing win, and the reason why I say that is because our defense continues to be an example, right? Our defense continues to be an example because, like, how many times can you sit there as a Miami Hurricane fan and sit there and say, "Oh, thank God the offense pulled through"? Dude, we could never ever say that as Miami Hurricane fans, ever. It's always been, "Thank God we got a top 5 defense." Thank God it's not the same scenario. Our defense got outmatched by not only obviously taller receivers in North Carolina State, but we couldn't even out-scheme them. We had no game plan for the receivers. Period. We had no game plan. Our defense got exposed all game. And this is one thing that I try to explain to the fans. It's just nice. I love being 6-1. It's awesome. It's awesome. But look at the future. The future is not 6-1. It's not 7-1, 8-1, 9-1, 10-1, whatever you want to call it. Dude, it's 2021. It's the recruit that we bring in. It's the development that we bring on to those recruits. It's how we play those guys. You know what I'm saying? That's the bigger picture. You know what I'm saying? And if we can't do that, then I'm sorry, man. Miami's in a world of hurt. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mark?
Oh, I hear you. And that's one of the reasons why over the last couple of weeks, I've told people you can only play the schedule that you play. So when the schedule lines up after Clemson with a lot of NC State, Pitt, Virginia, you go out there and you should be winning these games. If you believe that you are ready to contend for an ACC championship, legitimately play in the championship game and make it a game, then you should be winning those games by, 20 or 25 points. And not that you,
Just like Ohio State.
not that you,
Just like Ohio State. Perfect example. You're an Ohio State fan. Ohio State, they've been whooping their opponents' ass. Now, don't get me wrong, Ohio State has been smoking their opponents. But any real Ohio State fan or logical person can sit there and point out their issues that they have. And then you got people like this. Dabo took over a program that was mediocre. Miami is Miami. Dude, stop talking about Dabo. Stop talking about Saban. This is Miami. It's a different story, and it's been the repeated story for 15 years. 15 years. Seriously. Ohio State can sit there and play somebody and whoop their ass. Literally whoop them. And they can complain about it. You know what the difference is? Because Miami can sit there and play somebody and barely beat them and make excuses. That's the difference right there. Is Ohio State can beat somebody and relate to the differences that they need to improve on, but Miami can sit there and play the team, and we need to make excuses for them. That is stupid.
well, just to finish my point, Hurricane Logan, on the schedule and the opponents that you've played other than Clemson, is that you should beat those opponents like you beat Florida State. If you're a top 5 team in the country. Now, if you play like 8 of those teams, are you going to have one game like tonight? Is Ohio State, is Clemson like they did against BC last week, is Alabama, or fill in the blank of any other top team that's, dropped down a tier? are they going to play and win every game 45-10 against these kind of teams? No, but they're going to win almost all of them. And then you'll see one slip up a year where they play a game like this one time out of all these games. But you've done that. You beat Virginia by 5. You beat North Carolina State by 3. You beat, the Louisville's not a good team. They're 2-5 right now. All these games are games that elite teams would be blowing their doors off. Now, they might slip up once and have one game where they struggle, but that's like 1 out of 8 or 9.
Mark, I agree with you, man. I'm glad that an outsider sees it. I'm glad. And my only point, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy. Hey, it's nice. We're 6-1. But one thing y'all got to realize, it's not an impressive 6-1. We have a lot of work to do, a lot, especially on defense. And I never thought I'd say this, right? Because we put up 600 yards on offense on freaking NC State.
Yeah.
And honestly, 600 yards on any defense, it don't matter. That's impressive. It's impressive. It's not bad, but we have a long way to go. You know what I'm saying? And as people continue to sit there and make excuses. You're talking about, COVID, injuries, backups. This is like, dude, next man up. And if it's not there and there's a problem that gets exposed, well, then we're not there. We're not there. That's the thing that separates us with Clemson. Clemson has backups. Literally, you look at Clemson's quarterback. Look at Clemson's quarterback. When his first game against who? Who was it? I don't even know who the hell they played, man.
Boston College.
Clemson's quarterback. Yeah, exactly. And he had fucking, excuse my language, I'm sorry. I'm hyped up. But, dude, that guy put up numbers, like big numbers. I was like, holy smokes, dude. Like, who the hell is that? Oh, wait, that's the backup? Holy crap, dude. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, oh, well,
They are loaded.
But, hey, man.
They are loaded.
At the end of the way,
Appreciate the call, man.
I gotta get off the phone. Yeah, I gotta get off the phone, dude. I'm a little drunk. Excuse me. I've been drinking since like 5:30 and it's 10:17 now. But hey, man, big shout out to Miami, man. I'm happy we won. But our defense is a mess, and we need to fix the problems. And a big thing that people don't realize, you guys might want to talk about is our first down offense. Our first down offense is a mess.
Okay, Hurricane Logan. Appreciate it, man.
Yep.
All right. Hurricane Logan. Good call. Then it got to be a little long, but good call. Excellent call. Always appreciate Hurricane Logan. Haven't talked to him in a while. Great to see a lot of names in here that I have not seen on a regular basis because we don't do a ton of live streams here on the Miami channel, but I was going to do this on the main channel, but thought, let's get the fan base involved, of course, here on the Miami channel, and certainly want to hear from some North Carolina State fans if they're out there, if there are any out there. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Uh-oh, call failed. Let's try this one.
Start the call or to decline. The call will start at the beep.
MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Hello? Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, who's on the line?
Yes. My name is Joshua. Is this Mark?
Yeah, Joshua.
Hey, Mark. Nice to finally get on with you.
Yeah, what's up?
I guess I'm one of the optimistic Miami fans.
Okay.
And kind of disagree with you in the last caller a little bit, but particularly about Miami being mediocre conversation or talk.
Okay. Those were his words. I didn't say mediocre. I said I think they're a top 20 team in the country.
Gotcha. But no, the last guy, Hurricane Logan, said mediocre.
Yes.
But 6-1 is 6-1. So I think that that's a very, very good record. There's
Sure.
120 teams, and we are top 10. We will be top 10 based on 2 top 10 teams playing this week.
Well, you're going to be ranked in the top 10. That doesn't mean you're one of the 10 best teams in the country. There's a difference there, but I get your point. You're going to be ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, all you can do is go by the ranking that they set up. So, also, I just wanted to point out that the Blake hate is not there. I want to ask everyone who has had more bad games, the offense or the defense.
Who's had more bad games, the offense or the defense?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to say that the offense had a bad game against UAB for about 3 quarters. Then they broke it open. I'd say that the offense had a bad game for the most part against Virginia. And the offense had a bad game.
Whole game?
The Pitt game put up 32 points, but that was defense generated. Yeah, I would say it wasn't a bad, awful game, but it wasn't great. It was maybe a C or a C plus against Pitt. The defense had a bad game in this one. The other game would have been, to a certain extent, Louisville put up a lot of yardage and points, but I thought Miami had control of the game and were the much better team.
Well, I think you named 2 bad for the defense besides this one, and pretty much 3 for the offense, but then the defense gets more, more help. If it wasn't for the defense, we would have lost versus Pitt, and I think we would have lost another game as well. But and then this game as well, we just had a bad half. How many points did the defense give up the second half?
The defense, what were they down? I think it was 24-21 at halftime, so they gave up another 17 points in the second half.
How many second half points did the defense give up?
How many second half points? I think 17.
So, and then remember, one was a kickoff, right?
Sure. Special teams, so 10 points. Okay.
So that brings it down to 10?
Yes.
Or was that a part of the 17?
No, the kickoff would make it 17. 10 points.
So the 17 isn't counting, is counting the kickoff for 10? Or
The 17 is counting the kickoff. The defense gave up 10. The defense gave up 10 in the second half.
10 points in bad half?
Is that bad?
Bad?
No, that's not bad.
Yeah, we've had one bad half this game. And they saved the offense for multiple games. So I think that this fire talk is just too much because the offense has had the performances in the defense. So that's just my thoughts. That's why I didn't want to take up all your time, other people in the call, but we just got to lay off a little bit. The recruits are coming, so things are going to get better.
I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much.
You have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the calls coming in. Thank you so much. We got 153 on the line here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Before I take another call, and certainly you can call in, I want to recognize, and I got most of these posted to the screen. I need to get the other one here that I see in red. Got super chat contributions coming in from Beard God Kell. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Miami Flow Football, Chuck C. Thank you so much for the contribution. And also Lazarus Lives ×3. Let's understand, and some people may want to look into the meaning of Lazarus Lives ×3. I believe I'm on to what that handle means, and that's very, very much the truth and very much something that we all need to live by. So let's keep in mind that I do this full throttle, full time, all the time. Some of you are aware of my recent circumstances and situation. I worked at ESPN for 19 years as a production operations manager and decided to leave there about a month ago to do this full time. Therefore, I am needing to run this as a business and look for revenue streams and to build this out big time. And so I very much appreciate all the support that you guys give me with the likes, the comments, sharing the videos out on social media so people know that we're here. So keep that in mind. When you're out on Twitter and Facebook, keep in mind that most of the people that you're friends with or followers of have no idea that we exist here. So you can be my extension, my promotion, my branding, my marketing group to get the word out there. So share the videos out there on social media. Bring people back here that are Miami fans, that are college football fans. And you can see it here in the live chat that we not only get support and feedback from Miami fans on strictly a Miami instant analysis call-in show. This is all Miami, full throttle Miami, and if North Carolina State callers want to call in, of course. But this is a Miami channel, and we still get all sorts of contributions from other college football fans from all over the map. So thank you so much. For some of you that support, despite the team that you root for, you still join us on the live streams for other teams. So thank you so much for that. I see Jordan's name in particular, Clemson fan, who joins the Ohio State shows, the Miami shows, the Florida State shows, the Nebraska shows. And so thank you so much for that. But again, there are people out there that you guys know, and I'll specifically talk to Miami fans because that's most of you right now. But regardless of who you root for, we cover your team, whether it be here or over on the main channel. And you have acquaintances out on social media who love college football who have no idea who I am. So let them know, bring them on in, and let's build this thing out. Thank you so much for catching the vision. So I was lined up with calls and suddenly no calls. All right. Ski Money Entertainment. Good to see you. Peyton Griffin as well. Kyle Smith has been making all sorts of comments here in the live chat. Appreciate that. Canes fan 352. He put on D to get ball back, score, and go up by 3. Smart move. Mike Williams, the D needs to get it together next week. And I'm trying to think who the game is against next week. So it's 6-1. That's 7 games. That's 4 left. You got North Carolina, Virginia Tech. Georgia Tech, I believe, is still on the schedule, and I'm going to have to look at the schedule. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Andy Garcia. How you doing?
Hey, Andy, what's going on?
All right, I got a big lag. I'm watching you, and it's probably about 15, 20 seconds behind you. So
okay.
Anyways, I've been trying to call you for the last couple of weeks. There's just a few things I wanted to talk about. I hear a lot of people talking about, and just kind of want to touch on it. First few things is like, I kind of took notes, man, because it's been like 2-3 weeks, but there's a big talent disparity from the first, I want to say, top 3 teams. Maybe 4 and 5 are probably right there, like on the cusp of getting there. And I feel like maybe 7 through every, maybe 25.
Mm-hmm.
The talent is so close.
Yep, I agree.
That it's really unfair to like say, Miami's got all this talent. We're really not that talented. We've got some talent in some spots, but we're really not that great. When we get a top 12, top 15 recruiting class, that really don't say much. And that's not to say we don't have some studs, because we certainly do, but in some spots there we're just about middle of the pack, and as a team we're a middle of the pack ACC team. The ACC is not very good. So it's fair to say that Miami's not that good. Some people get so butthurt about that. I don't understand.
Well, I think that goes back to being a fan, and fans want their team to be good. They want to be, and they take a certain pride in an attachment to their team. So by connection, and this is ridiculous that people should have to defend their team or defend that they root for maybe a mediocre team. But people take it as an offense when other people trash talk their team. They take it as a personal offense, and they also kind of attach their self-worth or self-value with how good the football team is that they root for. And that's obviously not something that people should do.
Right. Now, the thing I want to talk about, 2020 has been crazy, and something I want to, like I've noticed this every year. It seems like you got upsets every week. I know you talked about it. We saw Boston College play Clemson real close last week. The Boston College is a good football team.
Sure.
And people are shocked. Well, how did Boston College do it? Boston College has got D1 players on scholarships. You know, and it's crazy. Like, I feel like in college football nowadays, maybe more than it used to be 15, 20 years ago, upsets, it really, every Saturday, just depends on who shows up that day. You can be a good team, just don't show up that day. You're going to be upset, but it's not that you're worse than them or somebody, you know. It's been a crazy year. It's really just about who shows up on that day. Who's going to make the next play? And on that note, Miami, something I feel like nobody really ever talks about, and maybe I'm stating obvious, but Miami is such a big energy, big momentum team. They really need a big stage. For whatever reason, I don't know what, that's the curse or whatever the problems that we're having. It's like Miami, I have no doubt, this might be me being a homer, you know, but I think if we had played Clemson at home, that game would have been totally different. And I don't know if I'm crazy for saying that, but just looking back through the years, that's just the way it goes. Miami plays great when they're under the lights at home with a big crowd and a big game. So, but for whatever reason, they get on the road and they play somewhere else and they just choke. There's just no energy there. And the turnover chain helped a lot with that when it first came out. But that's kind of dwindling down. And even to me, I'm kind of starting to get tired of it.
So just to back up, Andy, on one of your comments about playing well on the big stage under the bright lights. So you're saying that Miami does play well on the big stage under the bright lights?
At home.
At home.
If they're on the road, no. It's like,
okay.
It's like, yeah, if they're at home, I feel like if it's a big game, like we can look back at the Notre Dame game, the
yes,
State game,
3 years ago.
Yep. Several of them. Even the Florida State games, you get them, and it seems like they show up, but they can't take that same energy on the road when there's away fans. You know what I mean? And I know that's for every team, but a good team is going to do that every single week, no matter what. Miami seems to have a little bit more of that going on, I feel like, than your typical average ACC team. You get, and you talked to Holtzman last week, and you made a comment that somebody said, Miami is everybody's Super Bowl. Not that he said it, he might have been quoting somebody else, but it does appear to be that way. Like it appears that everybody plays Miami a lot harder. So you got these really not so good teams playing Miami. It just appears that they're really playing a lot harder that week when they're playing Miami. And then it also gives the appearance that Miami's playing down to their opponent. So I don't know what the case is with that, but it does seem to be that way for some reason. So is Miami playing down, or is everybody playing up?
I can't really verify that one way or the other. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying I can't verify that. I can't pop in all of North Carolina State's games this year and say that they're not playing as hard against Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, whomever else they played. I don't necessarily, I can't see that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I can't verify that.
Right. And there's no statistics to show, to back, there's no evidence or proof to back that up. That's just going off an eye test. But it just seems like for some reason, for whatever reason, those games are always a lot closer when you're playing Miami. But you got it, for example, who did we play recently? We played some teams that just get blown out by somebody. We're playing the next week, and they're playing us into the fourth quarter, real close. I just don't understand that. A lot of it, to me, what's going on with Miami is all the psychology. The Manny Diaz said it right. Like, I want to say 4 weeks ago, he said that that every Miami fan, including our players, have this mentality that we're just so much better than everybody. And it's not the kids' fault because that's what they've been told their whole life. Miami has this image, these standards, and everybody expects that. And I think even the players assume, oh, I'm on Miami, so I'm a big-time player. And I think that mentality is what's been hurting them. I think a lot of the problems that we're having consistently is it's all psychology. It's not that they don't have the talent, they don't have the right coaching. We've had some good coaches, we've had some bad coaching too, but there's something going on with the players' attitudes and mentality going into these games to where they're just not showing up. They're not playing up to their true potential as recruits or what they were supposed to be. Mark Pope being one of them. You see, just you can go down the board, the whole roster. This guy, they hype him up and they think they made it because they're at Miami, but we don't see it. So I don't know if coaching can fix that. I think the winning teams that have this culture built where the mentality's there because they train that way. They're around the same guys that have done it, and they kind of get adopted into that. And Miami just doesn't have that. And I think with the talent we have, which is okay, if we had that kind of talent or that kind of mentality, that things would change. And it might just take a few winning seasons to get to that point.
Absolutely, sir. Anything else?
No, that's it, man. I just think that biggest thing is I feel like the mentality on the team needs to come up, and fans need to be patient and kind of see things from, kind of step back, take the King shades off, and just kind of look at it from a Georgia Tech fan point of view or a Ohio State, somebody else. Don't be such a homer. I watch football all day Saturday. I watch game day from 9 to 12, and then I watch football from noon to midnight. So I appreciate the sport, and I see what's out there, and I feel like a lot of fans don't. I'm not saying everybody doesn't, but when you're such a homer, that you're disappointing yourself. You got to take a step back and take a look at the rest of college football and realize every team is good. But the best teams are probably the first top 3, top 4 teams. And after that, you have a pretty fall off.
Well, you started the call with that comment. I agree with that, and I think that's been the case for at least 5 or 6 years. Absolutely. All right, Andy.
That's about it. I appreciate your call, man.
Hey.
Your show.
Thanks for calling in. We appreciate it.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Our man Andy calling in. So seems like we're a bit split when it comes to the excitement and the joy over the Miami win tonight. I don't think anybody can deny that it was an exciting game. So if you're just a college football guy like me, just want to see a good game, want to see explosive plays, want to see offense and defense. So I don't like games where it's 62-59 because the defenses don't tackle, they blow coverages, they don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't like that, but I thought that generally, there was a lot of bad defense out there, but it wasn't out of a lack of effort, and there were still defensive plays being made. So it was a fun game to see. Well, De'Aaron King was he played one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacking games that I've seen this season out of anybody in the country. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hello, my name is Syntax Canes, and I just want to call in to get your perspective as far as us getting high-caliber players and just the talent, because I'm seeing that a lot of people hype up players like Al Blaze, who is who's a 4-star recruit, number 12 cornerback in the nation. DJ Ivy, who's the number 32 cornerback in the nation. That's Fitz Fair, number 2 defensive tackle in the nation. Mark Pope, number 11 wide receiver in the nation. You have all these hype, and you don't see them progress into that talent translating into the field. And you as an Ohio State fan, the ratio, I would say y'all's ratio from transitioning high-ranked players to productive players on the field and even into the NFL is higher. So from your perspective, why is that?
Well, the one thing I don't understand about what you've alluded to is transforming the talent and developing it into high-quality players, impact players at this level, and then eventually onto the NFL, is that there have been a number of coaching changes at Miami. So let's take the last 15 years and look at Miami football and look at the recruiting rankings year after year after year after year. Obviously, they've bounced back and forth, up and down, but Miami has never recruited during that time elite. They have not recruited top 3 and 5 classes, but they've never dropped off to the level of Virginia and Georgia Tech and Duke and Louisville and those schools that are 40 and lower. They've always recruited at the worst. I remember a class a couple of years ago, and it sounds like you're on top of these recruiting numbers. I know that the class a few years ago was ranked like 28th, and that's the worst class that they've recruited that I can remember. And they've been as high as 8, but generally they're in that 13 to 20 range, somewhere in there. So there is no question that if we analyze any particular specific recruiting class, that there could be a number 10 ranked class in a particular year that doesn't play up to those expectations, and it's actually about the 25th best class, or vice versa. A 25th best class rated at the moment could turn out to be developed into the 10th best class in the nation. But generally, over time, your recruiting rankings should reflect the play on the field and the results on the field. Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson recruit. Well, Clemson not as much as the other two, but have recruited top 3 to 5 classes every year. And where do they finish? They go 13-1, 12-1, 14-1, and they go to the college football playoff, and they're top 3 to 5 teams in the country. Georgia's another example. You've got your outliers like Wisconsin, in particular. You've got your outliers like Texas, who underdevelops. Okay, sticking to Miami, you've recruited generally in that 10 to 20 range, so your teams should be going 9-3, 10-2. And they've not gone 9-3 and 10-2 other than 2017 in the last 15 years. So the disconnect is between transitioning that talent, and you've played in a largely underperforming league, except for a few strong years, like 2016 was a good year for the ACC. Generally, those recruiting rankings, you should actually be able to play beyond that. Compare Miami's recruiting classes to, let's say, South Carolina's recruiting classes. Well, South Carolina, they bring in top 15 to 25 classes every year, but those top 15 to 20 classes are like 9th and 10th in the SEC. So that's going to reflect in their record being 500 most of the time, because they're going up against classes that are better than theirs, even though they're in the top 20 or 25 in the nation. Where Miami's bringing in top 10 to 20 classes that are like 3rd in the ACC. So they should be performing at that level. And for some reason, there's been a disconnect of that talent not being developed to match the recruiting ranking. And that has come under a number of head coaches and a number of coordinators and positional coaches on both sides of the ball. So this has been an ongoing issue, regardless of who's been hired as the head coach, that I can't put my finger on why the hiring has been so poor at the head coach's spot. And then in turn, they have not generally, now I'm not picking on every specific coach, but generally not selected coaches that have been able to develop the talent.
Yeah, 100% agree. Because I'm just wondering, a lot of Miami fans, they put a lot of stock in stars, And while all those stars look pretty and everything, there's multiple teams around the nation who can probably give Miami a run for their money without the 3 and 4 stars. For instance, last year we lost to FIU and LA Tech, who is a team of a bunch of 3 stars. So I was wondering, do you think we're just getting the wrong guys, or is it more geared towards coaching?
Well, I also think it's coaching, but I would. You mentioned FIU. FIU's not even full of 3 stars. If you looked at their roster, they don't even get. I bet I'm going to make an estimation that there are 15 3 stars, 15 to 23 stars on FIU's roster. But anyway, your point is well taken. I think there's been a couple issues there. Number one, we just went through the coaching, and I can't explain that. I would have to go through every positional coach and especially the coordinators on both sides of the ball over the last 15 years to see how well they have performed at other jobs. So Rhett Lashley's a case in point. He's doing the job at Miami. It looks like he's progressing and advancing the offense. And that is to be expected because he's had successful stops at SMU and especially at Auburn. But we would have to go through, especially at the coordinator position. Now, we know that the head coaches have not been successful. You can't take any Miami coach since and even including Larry Coker, actually, even though he was highly successful at Miami. None of those coaches, aside from one, none of those coaches have been successful anywhere else. So it's not like let me find somebody. It's not like Les Miles showed up after winning 10 games a year at Oklahoma State, and then he went to Miami and he was going 5-7 every year, and then he left and went to LSU and won national championships. They've never had a coach during this time frame over the last 20 years, since Butch Davis, really, that has been successful elsewhere, other than, of course, Mark Richt. And he had all of his success at one stop and then came to Miami, and it was obviously the end of the line for him. He just wasn't into it, and the motivation waned, and it just ended badly. But so the coaching hires, the head coaching hires have been dismal because none of those guys have succeeded anywhere else at the Power 5 level. You could say Al Golden succeeded, but that was at Temple. So the head coaching hires have been dismal, and the coordinator hires, we would have to go through all of those individually. The other issue, I think, is that over the last certainly 5 years, the offensive line play has been well below the positional performance of any other unit on the field. And the quarterback play, up until the guy that you've got on the field from Houston now, has been largely atrocious for quite a long time. So you've failed in 2 main positional units that really can't be masked. You need an offensive line. It's maybe the most important positional unit on the field, and the quarterback is the single most important player on the field.
I agree. And last question. I know you're an Ohio State fan, so you have a great defensive line coach in Larry Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like Coach Todd Shrout really isn't getting enough out of our defensive line as far as players like Jalen Phillips or Quincy Roche. So I was wondering if you think that our defensive line would be better with a coach like Larry Johnson?
Well, certainly, again, like you say, Larry Johnson has been exceptional. It's hard to separate the coaching performance from the talent. So, of course, Larry Johnson wouldn't be as successful without guys like Draymond Jones and Chase Young and Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa and on down the line. So it's a little bit of both there. You've got to go recruit the talent, and then it has to be developed. But Larry Johnson is considered one of the best in the business. The defensive line at Miami certainly has, I think the defensive line at Miami currently should be one of the 5 to 10 best units in the country.
Well, thank you for having me on, and I just subscribed to your show.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too.
It's always good to get another sub. So again, if you know folks out there on social media that love college football, bring them right here and bring them on over to our main channel. My goodness, we posted so much content this week. We had probably 3 different angles on the Georgia-Florida matchup, Arizona State, USC, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, on and on and on and on. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Hello? Okay. All right. When those start, that may signal the end in regards to taking phone calls. Once we get to the point where we've got a screener, that will be phenomenal. But we have yet to arrive at that point. And I also, for many of you, if you've heard this explanation before, I got myself the mixer, and I've got the equipment here. I've set it up, and it's just not been successful in terms of transitioning the phone calls and working out all the audio, but we want to get to that point. But we've made the purchases to get this right and to make the call-in experience much better for you that make the phone call, better for the broadcast, better for everybody that's trying to listen. So we've made those purchases. We just need to get it worked out. Cheryl's here. Cheryl is the hardest working, most productive moderator on YouTube. She just has to be. I don't know that for a fact because I don't go to other people's channels, but I just have to say that she has been amazing. Should we try one other call? Should I really try it? People are probably telling me no, shouldn't try it because we had this idiot who just came on. We'll see. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Oh, I think they went away. All right. So, I guess Dante wants to call in, and certainly you can. I'm just going to be extremely cautious. Mobile 84BW, please don't say the words Al Golden gives me the cringe. Sorry to go there. Somebody took me in that direction. Mr. HD, the defensive line is fine, but they ain't calling any holding calls on us. I hear that from Tabardine every day. The yardage total was 213-6 in the fourth quarter. Not sure how they pulled it together the last 10 minutes or so, but we'll take it. Canes D is feast or starve. And I made that point that even though the defensive effort is concerning, at least they made the 3 stops that they needed to late. Hey, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Okay. More hangups. All right. Raphael is letting us know that with no linebackers, the D-line will look lesser than actually is. Sure. If the linebackers don't make the plays, even though the defensive line ties up the offensive line, then it all needs to work together. That's all there is. In the run game, sometimes the DBs can be a little lax, and you can still have a successful series of plays stopping the run. That's possible. But even in run enforcement, you need the defensive backs, especially since there are more on the field today than there ever have been in college football because of all the spread formation and slot receivers. All right, we'll try this one more time. This may be the last time. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Oh, I think I accidentally shut off somebody who may have been a legitimate caller. So I apologize for that, but understand the situation. When I heard a lot of static and yeah. All right. Yeah. One more time. Here we go. We're losing our audience here. We've gone from about 155 to 121. I think people are sick of the unsuccessful phone calls. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Hey, I appreciate it. What's going on tonight?
I'm happy for the win, and you know, and it's tough. I mean, they got a long way to go,
Yep.
but I think the offense did outstanding tonight. They really did. They really did. I don't know what was up with the defense. I mean, but I thought the penalties were a little questionable. But you know, they went on the road, and you know, and they got the win. Regardless, I know they didn't cover the spread or whatever, but they got the win. I liked it. It reminded me of Louisville. At the time, Louisville wasn't a bad team. That running back, and he just ran all over us.
Sure.
And Miami found a way to, you know, and like tonight, it was ugly, but it was a win. You know?
Well, it was pretty on offense. You've got to be excited about the obvious work that's been put into the long, deep passing game from the first 5 games of the season based on what they accomplished, especially on the first drive against Virginia and then all night tonight against NC State.
I don't know where these receivers came from. I don't know what lit the fire up in the butts.
Yeah.
But I am elated to see it. I just don't know. You know, the whole night. But I don't know. I don't know what's up with the defense giving up the long ball. You know, it's scary. We got a long way to go, Mark. I love this team more than most people. I mean, I do. But man, I'm telling you, we got a long way to go if they ever want to see 2001 again. I mean, we got a long way to go.
Sure.
Dominate. We don't dominate, and you know, we can say all we want, but this looks like 2017. And I hope it's, you know, I mean, it's a better team, but it just look, if you can't dominate like Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State do. You know, it's an offensive-driven business now. You know, defense is whacked. You can't do anything on defense anymore. They've stacked the cards against them. And many deals have tightened up. I mean, where was the same guy that was on the sidelines when he was a defensive coordinator? I mean, he doesn't get emotional now. And I don't understand that because he used to light that defense up if they did something stupid. That guy's gone. Now he's like his dad, you know. It's very calm to me. I don't like that. You know, I don't know. So anyways, you still with me?
Well, I appreciate you calling in. Anything else?
No, man. I love your show. Really do.
Thank you.
All right.
I
Take care,
appreciate
Mark.
that,
Thanks,
man. Thank you so much. So you guys certainly, I'm letting you know when you give me encouragement like that and just tell me you love the show, I appreciate that. So that means a lot too. So there's a lot of ways to contribute, and that would be one for sure. Also, we got the super chat available. Cheryl, thank you so much for posting the number. It's been up several times. Sometimes I put it down on the crawl. So look out for that. 860-325-3687. Yeah, De'Ara King, 31 of 41 for 430, 5 touchdown passes, no picks in 41 pass attempts, and ran for 105 yards. And then also consider that there were dropped passes, but his receivers generally made the plays for him. He put the ball where he needed to, but they did make some nice catches. Hello, sir? Hello? Okay. All right. What else do we have going on tonight? The later it gets in the night, yes. Psycho, I can't get through all that. It's something about a ninja. Psychotic Ninja. There it is, 100. God, I am so sick of hearing Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State. We are not there, my God. Yeah. That's the state of college football right now until proven otherwise. Kane Kong, our D-line is disruptive. The back end needs to step up, at least jam the receivers, take them off their routes, not physical enough. Raphael, Quarterman, and Pinckney are not on the field. Name the linebackers now besides McLeod. Exactly. Austin, thank you so much for the kind words there. Always appreciate the show, Mark. Go Canes. That is nice to see. Mobile 84BW says the boosters gave Golden 5 years. Manny deserves at least 4. I hope nobody's talking about firing Manny Diaz. He's 6-1. Yeah, the schedule's not been difficult. They did have the letdown in the showdown against Clemson, but they're not there. Clemson would do the same thing against a lot of, I want to say, quality, decent teams across the country, whether that be maybe an Auburn or a Texas, possibly. Somebody like that may have the same result against a Clemson. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Okay, maybe we'll move on. All right. My frustration level is growing. It is like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I appreciate for anybody who made a legitimate phone call that I didn't get to for whatever reason, because these other morons were cutting you off, because I had like 3 calls at the same time and I took the moronic call. And then I tried to take 2 other calls, and maybe I'll give it one more shot because I don't give up easily. Believe me. You would know that in other areas of life. Well, this person hung up. All right, we're done. All right, I have gotten to as many comments, I believe, as are here. Austin says, no shot anyone wants him fired. Huge turnaround for this program so far, and he's already matched his win total from last year. I was just responding, Austin, to some people in the chat that were saying, well, we got to give him 4 years. We got to give him 4 years. So they were responding to somebody who was basically saying, fire him, I guess. To make an amends on the Heisman question that I was given by one caller, understand that sometimes you guys hit me with questions like, name the 5 best quarterbacks in college football. And I may go boom, 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 boom. And then 3 minutes later, I'm talking to somebody else and I thought, oh, I would have named them. So it's not like I'm producing a video and saying, these are the 5 best players in college football, or these are the 5 top Heisman candidates, to where I think it through. So between Kyle Trask and De'Ara King, I would have to look at the numbers. I would have to look at the performance. Of course, Kyle Trask's big game comes tomorrow against Georgia. De'Ara King had one major opponent, and that was Clemson, and he did not perform well, but he obviously wasn't supported well by the offense in terms of the playmakers or the offensive line. But the bottom line is that he did not perform well either against Clemson, and that was the one huge game of the year. If Miami can get to an ACC championship game, then things may change. But I'd have to evaluate the numbers between Trask and King. But most likely my 4 to go to New York, knowing that Trask has played well against Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Missouri. He's played well against everybody. So I think right now it's Mac Jones, Justin Fields, even though he's only played 2 games, they've been incredible. And Trevor Lawrence, even though it's not been a just ridiculously great year for Trevor Lawrence, it's pretty much just been his standard. But now we're going on 2 missed games for Trevor Lawrence, and one may be the biggest game of the year for him and his team. And then I would go with Kyle Trask, and then De'Ara King would certainly be under consideration. So would Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond has gained a ton of criticism in his career, but Kellen Mond has had a very good season. Other than the quarterback position, again, I'd have to go through the numbers. Would have to sit down with the numbers. Kyle Pitts got off to a great start. Florida wasn't on the field for a few weeks. Najee Harris, as of last count, had 14 rushing touchdowns. There you go. And we'll look to see who else is out there. Of course, Keaton Slovis and Jaden Daniels go to work starting at noon Eastern time tomorrow. All right, everyone. Appreciate everybody stopping by here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. On your way out, give us a like. Also, subscribe here and over at the main channel, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We will be live after the noon games at about 3:15 Eastern time. and we'll be live late night after the primetime games. Remember that as well. Here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Appreciate the chat tonight. It was a good one. Congrats to Miami, 6-1, North Carolina State. We will, of course, be following you as well as we do all of college football over on the main channel. More Miami talk here next week as the Canes prepare for their next tilt. See you next time.